Welcome to Message from Phil. Message from Phil identifies a vibe, a message, and a story told through lyrics of a song. So before we get started and we welcome our special guest today, I want to tell you just a few things, and I mean just a few things that he is associated with. One, he's a father and he's a husband. He's a girl dad, and we like to have girl dads on because they give a different perspective. He's also a retired Air Force vet, so we give him props for that. We salute him for that. He's a barber, and last but not least, he is a Q dog. So you guys, please put your hands together and let's welcome Mr. Anthony Guillory. Yay,
Happy
sir.
to be here.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am doing great. Thank
Good,
you.
good,
Thank
good.
you. Thank you for one for coming on and supporting me. And before we get started, I always ask my guests this question. What makes you tick? What makes your blood boil? Give me something about you.
Oh man, so like you said, I'm a girl dad. So my motivation is definitely my daughters. They make me get up and do every day. So if whatever is going on, they're always a part of it. So it's like I'm not having a great day. I call my oldest daughter. She always makes me smile. I
Mm.
need to be chastised or talk too crazy. I call my youngest daughter. If I just want to have random conversation, I call my middle daughter. So they are the motivation. They're what make me get up every day and make me just continue to push forward. So
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you just recently got married as well. So we want to acknowledge, say your wife's name.
So my wife's name is Sunny. Sunshine is her legal name, but
Okay.
her name is Sunshine. We met while in the military, and yes, we did recently get married in Bali. It was amazing. It was everything
Oh, I
that
didn't know Bali.
it was amazing. So I'll have to
Oh,
share the video with you later. So, but it was really
oh,
dope.
nice. Well, congratulations to the both
Thank
of
you.
you guys. And one thing I was doing prior to preparing for the actual interview, one thing that I said before as I introduced you that you are a barber and you're retired Air Force. So we're gonna just talk about two of those things just to dial down and unpack some things. So
Okay.
you're retired Air Force. How long has that been? And how long did you spend in the military?
Okay. So I did 20 years, 2 months, and 2 days in the military,
Wait,
but
okay,
nobody
let's
was counting down.
wait a minute. You look like a baby. Did you say 20 years?
I did 20 years, 2 months, and 2 days. So the it went by fast. Uh, and it was definitely something that I'm really appreciative of now for the benefits of after retiring. So it makes life a little bit easier having that retirement every
Of
month to
course.
move around and be an entrepreneur. So it makes it a little easier.
Well, wait, we have to clap that out. Congratulations to you, your dedication, your consistency. And then let's talk about your venture of being a barber. What was the impetus for you to say, I'm going to go to barber school, and how it's been going?
Okay, so what I realized is a lot of businesses come out of necessity. So military was a part of the barbering. So when I went to my first duty station, I was stationed in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and there were no black barbers.
Mm.
So every time I went to the barber shop, I came out of there and they tore my head up. And so maybe after the second or third time, I'm like, well, I can buy clippers and mess my own head up.
And
And
say that.
eventually, right? So eventually I started cutting my hair and I guess it started looking kind of decent. So then my friends was like, well, hey, can you cut our hair? So it was the craziest thing. I worked in the armory at the time. I was taking in guns and weapons every night. And then as soon as I closed that window and finished inventory, I had a bar stool there and people would come down and start getting their hair cut. So I'd be in the middle of the night cutting hair from the armory.
Well,
So going forward from that, I moved to Las Vegas and there was barbers. And I was like, well, I don't need to cut my hair anymore. I put the clippers down, but every once in a while I would pick them up. So real quick, shout out to Tron Hicks. from Las Vegas.
Yes,
He is,
Troy.
yeah, he is
Yay.
definitely an inspiration for me being a barber. When I was getting ready to retire, I was like, man, I think I might be a barber. He's like, man, everybody say that. You ain't gonna do it. So about a year ago, he actually came to Houston when I was cutting in Houston just to see me do it. And it was cool for the person who was an inspiration for me to be a barber, came and
Oh,
stood with me while I cut hair. So
oh.
shout out to my barber, Tron Hicks. So
Yes, that's wonderful.
yeah,
Wow. So look, like you said, you stayed consistent and it was out of necessity. And look what it produced today because somebody is paying attention. Somebody is watching this podcast and go, okay, I was pushed into it, but this can be a passion.
right. It can be.
So are
So
you cutting full time now?
I am a full-time barber, but it's funny because I my wife reminds me all the time that I'm more than a barber. So
Yes.
I actually, with my sister and my cousin, we own a salon suite in Houston, Texas, and it's actually called Sweet Life. So if you're looking for it, it's Sweet Life HTX Houston. So we have a 13-room salon suite. It comes
Wow.
with any amenities that any barber, beautician, cosmetologist, whatever you want to do in your room, it can be set up. You can tailor it to exactly what you want. So I'm a barber. I'm business
Entrepreneur.
owner. I do a little bit of everything. So
I think that's wonderful. And may I ask how long has that been in the play, the
okay,
suites, the salon suites?
okay. So we started it about a year and a half ago. The build out took quite a bit of time. So it's probably been up and running for about 8 months now.
Okay. So when you talk about the build out, so you went through a process. So with that process, what have you learned and now can apply it to your life or future businesses?
Okay, so I think the biggest thing was that we learned while trying to do build out is we couldn't find a lot of us in the construction industry. That
Wow.
was the biggest eye opener for me because as we were looking for people, we couldn't find flooring, we couldn't find um, electricians and different things like that.
Really?
And eventually, we found a contractor who Trevor. He's a contractor that my sister knew. He came in, he saw where we were because we went through a lot of bad people who started but didn't finish, or they started and did a bad job.
Mm,
And so he had to come in and revamp everything to get us where we needed to be. And then he had those contacts too, because we were basically trying to keep that money circulating with us.
of
It's
course.
crazy that we can't find us in certain situations, but thankfully we were able to find us. And so construction is definitely an area that I
So,
learned well.
can you shout out the guy? His name is Trevor, and does he have a business name? So, if someone in your local area, you're in Texas, correct? What part of
Right.
Texas?
So I'm in San Antonio now, and Trevor's actually in Houston.
Okay.
And let me see, I I would have to find his information. I'll have
No
it for you
worries,
before.
no worries. We can always get his information and put it in the description box just
Okay,
to give him, we never know who may watch this and they
right.
may want some additional information. So we just want to shout out Trevor. Do you know his last name?
Lamone.
Okay, shout out Trevor Lamone. Yay! So as we transition, Mr. Guillory, I want to talk about a song that has either blessed you, provided distraction, or really give you a perception on how you look at life. Can you identify? You're smiling hard, so can you identify a song that you can share with us?
I can. So shout out to all the Texas rappers because they are literally the people who got me through whenever I missed home. I would play something from Texas. But I spent so much time in on the West Coast with everyone that it's E40. So
Oh,
anytime that I am in a mood and I need to come out of it or I need to remind myself, I play E40's choices, right?
okay.
And so when I put that song on and I go through the checklist of yup, nope, I'm like, all right, I'm ready. So if I'm starting off kind of slow and I need that pick me up to remind me who I am, I'm throwing on choices. And by the time I leave here and get to the shop, hey, I'm ready. So
Okay. I know that's so give me a little bit of choices. Here's my
um
thing. You know what? I forgot my own thing, but usually when before you tell the song, it's like I have parameters. If
right.
you can sing, I ask you to sing it. If you
Okay.
can rap, I say come hard in the paint.
Oh
And
Lord.
if you can't do either one, I need you to say it boldly. So can you give us some lyrics?
Okay, I got you. Let's see. I want to do a part that's appropriate.
Okay.
Um, it says, "Are you a boss player? You know you a Mac? Yep." It says, "Let me hold a couple dollars." Nope. You still popping collars? Yep.
Mm,
It says, "Stock rims on the scrape." Nope. Pit wetter than the paint? Yep. So that part right there is just like it kind of just takes you through the checklist of where I
yes.
am, what I'm doing, and
Yes.
yes, and as you read through or you listen to songs, it has so much deeper meaning when you kind of think about how you tie into that. But choices is definitely my one. So
I like that. I like that. And shout out to E40. Yay.
Fonzarelli. So he's
Yes, yes.
definitely one of my go-tos to get myself hyped and ready to go. So
I love E40 because he's a trendsetter. And not only a trendsetter, he just has his own cadence and his own tone. And he's
agreed.
so confident with it. And he makes you go back, like, what did he say? What did
Exactly.
he mean? Because he may say, we'll use the word cheddar. We know that's money, but because he's so swift in how he do things, he might be referring to food and money at the same time.
This is very true. So I was thinking about E40 this morning. The first time I heard an E40 song, I was sitting in my uncle's back seat. I was a kid. And
Really?
so E40 has basically rapped songs throughout all the way up to my adulthood at this moment. And I'm like, this guy's still relevant. He was relevant when I was a kid and he's relevant now. And that's completely crazy to me. So
Isn't
he's
that
definitely one of those
amazing?
people who transitions as time goes on. You can't
Yes,
count him out. He's still here and still going.
absolutely,
So I'm a big
absolutely.
fan.
And I know Oakland definitely respect him, and he helped put, of course, was too short, but he definitely helped put Oakland on the map.
Facts.
Yes,
Big facts.
yes. So yes, definitely that. I like that you shared that. So I also have another question for you.
Okay.
We all have our ups and downs, our peaks and valleys. That's just what life is. None of us are immune from that particular situation. So I
Right.
say that to say, do you have a tap in song? And what I mean tap in song, when your spirit is truly, truly low. And I get it, you talked about E40, it got you pumped through the day. But do you have that song when your spirit is so low and you're like, ooh, I need something really to pull me up? Do you have a tap in song that you can identify and share with us?
A tap in song that would make me, for some reason, it's always gonna come back to hip hop.
Okay, and that's okay as well.
So I won't even say that I have a song. It's a mixtape, right?
Okay,
And that tap in is After the Kappa, and it's made by. I know it sounds crazy, but it's called After the Kappa, and you have like Slim Thug on there. You have everybody from a group called Swisher House. So Swisher House is basically one of those situations that put Texas on the map. So anytime that I'm not feeling my normal or I need to come back home or do anything like that, I'm always throw on After the Kappa. Slim
okay.
Thug is one of my favorite rappers, and I've actually had the opportunity to meet him a couple times. And
Mm,
in me meeting him, like the last time I saw him, I was just getting food, and he happened to be standing beside me, and I was like, "Hey, man," I was like, I don't know if you remember this, but the first time I met you, I was telling him about this car that he had. And I was like, yeah, you had this Regal, had a crazy paint job with 18s in the back. And he was like, man, I remember that. And like he was still like
wow.
those guys were still in high school when they started rapping. So when I met them, they were right there at the very beginning. And I was like, man, I was like, truth be told, I was like, I've played your music all over the world. And I was like, anytime that I feel like I'm missing home or I need to just teleport back to Texas, I was like, I throw anything by you. I was like, man, I done jammed you in Korea with the windows down, music blasting. So it was cool to meet one of the people who can make music that makes me want to get up and keep going. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
definitely after the Kappa is always gonna be my tap in uh, to go with. So
I like that. I like that. I'm gonna have to check it out because I've never heard of
okay,
that particular title. So you giving me something that I can definitely check out.
definitely.
And speaking of checking out, give me some information. I said as I introduce you that you are a Q dog.
All
I
right.
know you have the
Shout
oh,
out to the
I knew
bros.
it was coming. Come
Shout
on,
out to the
come
bros. So okay, so I went over in 18. I actually went grad chapter. Interesting road to Omega. They
on.
always
Okay.
say it's when it's your time, it's your time. Um, as a kid, all I knew was Q Dogs. I didn't even know it was Omega Psi Phi. I just knew what a Q Dog was.
Yes.
So went off to college, saw him, was like, I don't know if this is me right now. Went on into the military, started getting my education, started running into bros, started talking to him. And one of my uncles, he's actually Alpha. He was always like, do what you identify with. And although
Yes.
people see Omega Psi Phi and they see shirts out off and tongues out and all that, what the flip side of that is some very professional men in Omega Psi Phi.
Mm,
So at any moment you can be sitting next to the bro that's a cop, the bro that's a doctor, the bro that's a general. You know what I mean? So it's bros worldwide. And that's the cool
yes.
thing because anywhere I go, I run into a bro and it's my friend. It's like when I
Oh,
meet you, we have something in common. It's something about us that make us want to be Omega men. So it's one of the being Omega is one of the proud moments in my life. It's just a great experience to be around the bros for uplift. Uh, so and like they said, you do what you identify with, and the principles is manhood, scholarship, and uplift, right? And I'm
yes.
big on manhood. I'm
Yes.
big on what manhood uh, contains. Um, scholarship, education has always been big. I'm a constant learner. I like to learn, and then uplift. As a barber, I can have somebody who's having the worst day, and then I'm gonna cut their hair and transform them. And in between that, we've been talking, and now they have a different perspective when they get up. So that could be the older guy who might be teaching me, or the young guy who needs to learn something, and we're
Yes.
always uplifting one another. So shout out to the brothers.
I love that. I love that. And you know what? That was a good way for me to entry point to talk about. I was looking at your Instagram and I noticed that you touched on two main things that is really prevalent today: mental health and about parenting. And I
Right,
can talk about the parenting part because I have an ex-husband and I believe that the kids, they're the focus regardless. And I remember you saying that on there, like, it's not about you, it's not about her, it's about the children. So can you talk
definitely.
about those two subjects that I've heard you over time talk about, if you don't mind?
Right. So, mental health is big for me. Um, the downside to being in the military was I lost a lot of people to suicide along the way. So in total, and I'm thankful I got out when I did, because in total, from the time I entered to the time that I exited the military, I lost 8 friends to suicide. And I know
Ooh,
that sounds crazy, but it's like you never really realize what people are dealing with, and there are signs, but sometimes you catch those signs a little too late. So, on my Instagram about a year or two ago, I was actually going through counseling, and it was called equine therapy. And I was like, I want to tell people what I'm doing. Like, I want people to know that although you may look at my page and you see that I went from being a weapons instructor to this kick ass dude over here to bodybuilding, hey, I still got a life over here and I'm still dealing with. And I'm like, if they can see that I'm dealing with it and I'm willing to go get help, then maybe they'll go and do the exact same thing. So it was crazy because I posted it, and then when I posted it, I had so many people reach out to me like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm good." I was like, "But I just want you guys to know that I am a proponent for mental health. I have no issues going and sitting down and letting it all out." Because in therapy, you end up talking to yourself eventually. Well,
Yes.
how does that make you feel? And you start digging into things that you didn't even know caused you any harm or affected you in a way. And now you're like, oh man, I never thought about that. So mental health is big, big, big for me. Ruben Martinez, he was one of my good friends. Met him in Vegas. We lost him to suicide, and
Mm,
that one was the tipping point for me. I'd never had anybody affect me in that way. So
mm.
now when it comes down to mental health, I have no issues. Like, hey, you need to talk, call my phone. If I need to talk, I'm calling your phone. If this don't work, I'm going to see a counselor. So counseling is everything.
And I think that's necessary, and you're speaking to someone that may have thought that I need to keep it to myself. And we know keeping it to yourself, it turns into anger, it turns into depression, and then it spills out in other portions of your life you may not be able to identify.
Right.
So I'm thankful that you brought that up.
Right.
But let's transition into
What
being, oh, yes,
one more thing. So it's
yes.
crazy because like I said, I'm a lifelong learner. So when it comes down to mental health and things like that, I had to dig into why people commit suicide. Right. So
Mm,
what I realized is the brain has a shut off mechanism. So if you don't unpack your stress, you can eventually stress yourself to the point where your brain starts saying, I want to shut myself off.
wow.
So I looked it up in animals and different species, and everyone or everything that has breath has this. So once you get stressed to a certain point, your brain says, it's too much for me, shut off. And then the brain starts thinking about ways that it can shut itself off. So
Wow.
for the military members, and I brought this up to a few people who, when I brought it up, they was like, man, I've never heard anybody say that out loud. So they have a thing called suicidal ideations, right? And what happens in that is I could be riding my motorcycle and my brain says, swerve into traffic. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. Or I had a big problem last time I went to counseling because my sister at the time, she was working on the eighth floor. And I had an issue going to the eighth floor because I'm transitioning out of the military. I'm feeling different. I'm out of my comfort zone. The people around me are no longer the people that I know. And every time I would get to the eighth floor and I look down, my brain would say jump. And I'm like,
Mm,
nah. So that mental health thing is big. So stress, find somebody to talk to, call
yes.
somebody, pick up the phone. Somebody want to hear it because what we don't want to do is you leave us here to hurt after you've shut yourself off. So that's my spiel.
Yes.
Like mental health is really, really big for me. It's like one of the passions for me to like tell somebody. So I'm ready.
Wow.
So
No, you have definitely blessed someone. You've shared something I had no idea about the shutting down of the brain. It's actually making me want to look into it more. And we know stress can affect every part of your body if it's not released. It can affect family, it can affect relationship, it can affect jobs. Just we can go on and on and on. So we have to have a way to release it.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about parenting. We know, and I'm speaking from my point of view, there's no handbook on it. A lot of times we imitate what the parenting that we receive, but we know as time move forward, we have to do things a little bit different. Can you
Right.
share some things that you have learned and having three daughters, how you navigated those waters?
Oh, so the funny part about that is they say a person who ends up with a lot of daughters was probably very hard on the women, right? And I was like, all right, maybe they was right, right? So I sit here and I'll never forget, like my oldest daughter, Madison. I remember the first time I held her in my hand and I'm looking at her like, oh my God, this girl looks just like me. And I'm just so in awe. And then all of a sudden my brain says, and someday somebody's gonna look at her and they ain't gonna see this baby. They're gonna be trying to knock your daughter off. And I was like, So it's crazy to be a girl dad and know how I moved around in my life for a long time. And it's like, so my theory to that is I always tell Madison's the oldest right now, so she can understand. And so I'll give her an example. I remember when I first bought her a cell phone, like, hey baby, you can't be on here taking pictures and sending pictures and doing all this. I was like, because you know what's gonna happen? Well, what, daddy? I was like, you gonna send that picture to that little boy, and that little boy gonna send it to his friend, and then he gonna send it to
Yes.
his friend. And I was like, ask me how I know. And she said, how you know? I said, because your daddy did it, right? So
Good
that's how
transparency.
I teach my daughters based off of it. I'm like, if your daddy wasn't no better than this, then the next person ain't gonna be no better than this. So this is why I'm telling you not to do
Yes.
these things. So
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's a good one.
right.
Do you think, even though you have three daughters, can you see the difference in each child? Because a lot of times people just put, oh, it's girls in one category. And you know, as well as I know, that each child requires something different and exhibit different behaviors. Can
Right.
you speak to that?
Oh, it's funny because I feel like all my daughters, in their mind, they're an only child. Each one of them in their mind, and it's so funny to put them all together because when I put them all together, it's like I don't want to share him with any of y'all. So
Oh, cute.
um, you can just tell the difference in them and a lot of the similarities. One of them may be outgoing. The other one is off in the stars. The other one is an artist, and they're just so different. So it just
Yes.
depending on what arises is where I come from. But in having girl dad, I have bonus kids.
Okay.
So and that happens to be two boys. So
Okay.
there's Tayshawn and Cameron, and
Nice.
in those situations, it's kind of like, man, finally I get to share some of this man stuff with them, right? So I'm always excited to share things that are boy specific with them, and then the girl specific things that I can speak on. I try to speak to those points too. So parenting is it's fun, it's challenging, and it's almost like I'm just trying to correct or show you what I did, the mistakes I
Yes.
made, and let's build on that and let's go forward. Let's not make those mistakes again. So
I like that. And congratulations, now you have two boys as well. So like you said, you can give that boy or that male perspective. How about
right,
that?
definitely.
So speaking of childhood, speaking of children, let's talk about your childhood. And what I mean by that, as a child, we've all had songs that we absolutely love and we've sung and we're like, hey, this is so good. And as we became an adult, we realized, like, wait a minute, what I thought it was about is totally different than what it's actually about. We've all been there. Can you identify a song?
So you gonna identify with this song too because our parents are from the South, and we have South roots. So I'll
Yes.
never forget. I'm learning how to dance. I'm popping my fingers and I'm singing the song. Oh, let me be your candy liquor girl. And what I mean. At the time, I'm a kid and I'm just dancing and I'm singing and I know word for word. And then it was like I was in my 20s and the song came on and I was like my mouth fell open. I was like, I never knew that this what this song was about. So that's definitely one of the ones. If you from the South and your parents play the blues, you gonna
Yes.
know that song, and you're gonna be like, you gonna know that song, and in that song, you're gonna be like, oh my God, I was singing this before I even knew what it meant.
That is a good one, and I've never had anybody say that one, but you're right, and from a
That's it.
child perspective, you like, yeah, a candy liquor.
There you go. And I like I said, I'm learning off of blues songs. I'm popping my fingers, and I'm like, man, wait a minute. So that was
He was
definitely
licking
the
a
eye
different
opener
kind
of
of
the song.
candy.
Right, facts. So and that song is by Marvin Cease. So
Yes, yes, yes. Well, that's definitely a good one. So I always talk about songs that have high energy. Example I usually use is Happy Birthday. When you see a crowd of people participating, or you're participating in high energy songs, it just makes you pump. Like for example, when you hear everybody singing happy birthday, and you know now the birthday songs is a whole nother level. Like they've created some dope songs. I done told my family this new birthday song, y'all gotta learn it. Y'all got a whole year because I want y'all to sing it to me.
already.
But with that being said, can you identify a song that either you participated in or you've watched a crowd participating in and it has high energy? You just like, yes, it gets your attention and gets you up and just ready to go. Can you identify a song?
Why must it be like that? Why must I chase the cat? It's nothing but
Nothing
the
but the
dog
dog.
and me. And the funny thing about that is that song can come on, and if people know you the bruhs, they looking at you because they waiting to see if you gonna start. And then if you see it being played somewhere and you look around and you see a bruh because you can't sit still. As soon as it come on, like something in you is moving, and it's like, man, he the bruh. Now I'm going over and I'm talking to him. And when you get a group of Omegas together and you play a Tommy Dog, oh, it's about to be a show. Everybody clearing our space. You know what I mean? We popping
You
and
definitely right
when
about that.
exactly. So that's definitely the song now that's like it'll come on in the barbershop and I'll be in the midst of cutting hair and I can't stop cutting hair, but and everybody know what's happening in my brain. They're like, yep, yeah, you know exactly where I am right now.
Oh,
So
that is funny. That is super funny. And give them that's George Clinton.
it is. Who is
Uh,
now the Bros. He is now officially part of Omega Sci-Fi.
oh,
So
is he?
he is now the Bros.
When did this happen?
Oh, it happened a couple years ago, and he was given the honorary because every time you hear that song, you think about Omega Psi Phi. So
Yes.
he is actually a part of Omega Psi Phi now. So
Oh, awesome. Well, look, shout out to George Clinton. I don't think people really realize what he's brought to the foundation of hip hop. So many people have pulled from him and acknowledged him on so many levels. And if you ever get a chance to watch, I think it's Drink Champs, he did an interview with Noriega
yeah,
and he talks about his journey and the different people that he has, I guess, influenced or affected. But yeah, George Clinton and yeah.
it's so funny because when I all of my daughters are artists. It's crazy how I don't know how it passed down through all of them, but when you see artists, they're different and
Hmm.
they're outside of the box and they're not doing or they can't follow the norm. And he's one of those people. And a lot of these musicians, like we only see with the part we want to see, but they're so different. Their mind thinks differently. We're over here and they way over here. And some of the things
Yes.
they say don't resonate until years later because they're so far ahead of us that
Yes.
by the time we're like, man, Kanye said that or he said that
Hmm.
20 years ago. So
Hmm.
shout out to George Clinton for being different, being outside the
Yes.
box, and all the
and
artists
and
who
being
are different.
okay to do so, because it's a lot
Exactly.
of times that people have that view and they won't say anything because they want to stay in the status quo.
Right.
You have to have a certain amount of who you are to say, you know what, I'm going to say it. And whether you get it now, later, or in the future, it's still me.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, I definitely like that. So, before we get out of here, I have one more question.
Okay.
Over our lives, we experience all sorts of things, but can you give me a artist that you would call your favorite and why? Or one of your favorites? Because
Oh,
I'm
so
putting
I
you on the
have
spot.
I think it's one of those things where it depends on how you feel is who's my favorite artist at that moment. Um, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I think right now, like one of my he's a favorite artist, but I can identify and people may think he's crazy, but I'm a big fan of Kanye West.
Okay. Shout out
And
to Wes.
exactly because although people may think he's eccentric and he's over the top, but a lot of the stuff he's saying is dead on if you just give it a minute to listen to what he's saying. he may not present it the right way, but after you let it resonate, it's like, man, he was right. So, like I said, he's an artist outside the box. He's thinking light years ahead of the rest of us. So,
Yes.
a lot of things, and I like the fact that a lot of time with music, I like the fact that they're saying something that I want to say, but may not be in the space to say it
Yes.
at this moment. So, um, I will go with Kanye because if he thinks it, he gonna say it, and he don't care. I pulled up one of his songs this morning, and it was at la 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 la. Wait till
Wait till
I
I
get
get
my
my
money
money.
right. So when that with that freedom of when you get your money right and you can do what you want, because I had a clean haircut. You knew me as bald fade, clean haircut.
Yes.
But it's like now that I can do my own thing, my hair is like an expression. It's a hey, you can't tell me nothing. I do what I want to do.
Okay.
Right? So that's part of that. Hey, I got my money right. You can't really tell me anything. So
Yes.
shout out to
Yes.
Kanye. He's one of my favorite
I
artists.
like that. And if I can interject, it may be someone that say 19 or 20 that see this and you say, I got my money right. But with that, it was a process, it was a
Yeah.
sacrifice, it was consistency to get to that point. Because
Right.
a lot of times we'll say that, but we rob them of the process and experience to get
Definitely.
there. And if
Definitely.
we do that, that's cheating them. And then they get to the point where they hit their face on the brick wall and they say, why? Because they didn't find out that it's a process to
There's
everything.
steps. Like there's levels to this. And I will say this, and I was talking to my cousin the other day because me and my two cousins, more like my brothers, we all left for the military weeks apart. So I went this week, and they went the following week.
Wow.
And in that, when we left home, I remember leaving home. I had $20 in my pocket. Right, I had $20 in my pocket when I got on that plane coming to San Antonio to start my military career, and I remember having nothing, or the things that I thought were something were nothing, and it definitely was a process. It was learning, making mistakes, learning, making more mistakes, learning, making mistakes. It's a process. There's not really a fast way, and a lot of times, people who I saw who got it the fast way, it had repercussions to it.
Yes.
And I like there's a rapper out there, his name is Finesse Two Times, and he was telling the listeners, it's cool to be square. It's cool to work a 9 to 5. It's
Mm,
cool to do all these things that people don't say are cool, but these are
mm-hmm.
cool things to do because the long run is you have a better chance of making it with longevity instead of losing parts. And then one thing and that one right there, with that fast money, that fast life, it has repercussions. I had a friend of mine who he came home from prison about 2 years ago, and we were just sitting there talking. I'm like, man, you were one of the smartest dudes I ever met. I was like, I remember
Wow.
waking up in class and sliding you my paper and making you do my work, right? And I'm like, so I don't understand how you got off on this road. So I asked him, I was like, so tell me the most amount of money you ever had while you were hustling or doing whatever. He was like, I had $70,000 cash. I was like, that's the most you ever had at one time. He was like, yeah, that's the most I ever had. And I was like, how many years did you go to prison for? And he was like, 5 years. And I was
Mm.
like, okay, cool. Let's divide 70,000 by 5 years. And this is this much money, right? And I was like, you could have made that same amount of money working at McDonald's and kept your freedom.
Ooh, come on now.
And with
Preach.
that, that friend now transitioned from that life to now he is a licensed air conditioning repair working for the city of Dallas. So he's out there doing his thing. I'm proud of him.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but it takes time. It's a process. Fast things don't last long. So
Yes.
find something you're passionate about, work at it, and then that passion may change, right? So it may
Yes.
change, but just keep going, keep
I
getting up
like
and
that.
doing.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that. And that was a good way to break it down because I think our younger crew needs to have it broken down in order to process, because everything is instant gratification real fast. So if we can break it down like you did, it was like, hey, take that 70,000 divided by 5. And
Exactly.
then now you and I know it don't make sense, but if you break it down like that, they was like, wait a minute, that's some bull, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You could have
So,
did the same thing working on 9 to 5.
and
So
maybe made a little bit more on top of that.
and
So,
learn something along the way. So yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So, before we get out of here, I always give my guests the opportunity to talk about any upcoming events, any social media handles you would like to share with my audience, or anything that you have going on.
Okay. What do I have going on? So I do have a venture in works right now that I can't, but when I get it up and started, I'm coming to you first.
Okay,
Um, a lot of times I don't like to say what I'm doing because negative energy people can feed into and kind of get you off your path. So
that's
I'm working
called
on
being
something,
wise. That's called being wise.
right? So I'm working on something that as soon as I get it up and going, you'll be the first person I contact. Maybe you can come
Awesome.
down and do a show there. We
Yes.
still have Sweet Life going on in Houston, Texas. Again, that's Sweet SUITE Life HTX Houston, for barbers, beauticians, tattoo artists, whatever you need to do in your space. We have space available. Please come and see us. Not only are we providing a space, but anything that we can provide as far as furthering your career, we're there to help. Right now, I'm barbering at Big Brother's Barbershop Lounge, um, owned by Joseph McClinton here in San Antonio. Um,
Nice.
that's where you can find me. Um, and outside of that, like there's a lot of things on the on the horizon. I
Horizon.
can't wait to share them later. So
Amazing. And do you have any social media handles
I
personally,
do.
just in case someone want to reach out? Because you did talk about mental health, and it may be someone that this particular episode really resonate with them, and they may want to reach out. And I
Okay.
noticed on your ID you say, "Hey, I'm available." So can you share?
Yes. So my Instagram is leisurely_gentleman1. Um, and once you get there, you'll see that I'm leisurely AG the barber. Um, and a little bit of my life is on there. I don't share a lot, but I do share a little bit here and there. So please come check me out if you need to reach out to me. Yeah, any of those people who may have something you want to talk about mental health wise, call your boy because I would rather talk to you and spend those few minutes of time than lose you forever. So please
Yes.
hit me up.
Yes, I think it has been absolutely amazing. First of all, in front of everyone, I just want to say thank you for saying yes to come on to Message Reveal
Yeah.
podcast. I truly appreciate that, Mr. Guillory. And on top of that, anytime on this, I talk about the journey and the destination. The journey is where we learn and we grow. The destination is where we celebrate. We always have to have a time to celebrate.
Right.
But the key to it all is not to stay in the destination too long. We have to move on and we got to get back into that journey so we can continue to learn.
Right.
So, with that being said, whenever the men come on, well, the women I bow to them, and the men I salute them. So, with all respect, and I'm proud of you, I will
Thank you.
salute you, and I thank you so much. And before we get out of here, is it anything, last words, anything you would like to say?
So when I was reviewing this morning, it was like one of those things that someone taught you or resonates with you. And the biggest thing that always helps me is remain teachable.
Mm,
Remain teachable. So I'll give an example. If I'm talking to a person about said subject and they're telling me everything that I already know, I don't interrupt and say, I know. I sit there
mm.
and I listen because it's going to be one thing that they say in there that you did not know that you needed to know.
Woo.
So I tell anybody, no matter how much you know about something, remain teachable because there's one bit of information that that person may have that you need to know, and you'll miss it by always being I know. So my biggest thing is just remain teachable. be
Yes.
open to learn new things. So
I love that. That right there is a bar for all of us because we can't get in that space. So we're like, oh, I already know. And like you said, I actually just experienced that yesterday listening to someone. And I was like, oh, I'm already familiar with the subject. And the spirit said, just listen. And I actually did learn something new. So I
yeah,
know this is nothing but the spirit that is
it is.
resonating here with that. So I thank you for that. And again, thank you. And you guys, please, please give my brother a round of applause, Mr. Anthony Guillory. Yay! Thank you again. And I'll be in touch soon. And when you have your new ventures, I'm your girl.
Definitely. Thank you
All right.
again for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
nice one.
You too.
Bye bye.